No nanny lasted with the alien queen's twins, until a human janitor did the impossible. Before we dive into this story, drop a quick hi in the comments and tell me where you're watching from. It really helps support the channel. The royal palace of Vexilon Prime gleamed under the light of three suns, its crystalline spires reaching toward the crimson sky. Inside, chaos reigned as the latest nanny fled down the corridor, her tentacles flailing in distress, leaving behind the howling twins of Queen Zorlana. Ryan Mitchell wiped sweat from his brow as he guided the automop across the expansive marble floors of the royal palace's East Wing. 6 months into his contract as part of the human maintenance crew, and he still hadn't adjusted to the sweltering heat of Vexilon Prime. The janitor uniform, designed for the exothermic Vexilonians, trapped heat like a sauna. Still, a job was a job, especially one that paid triple what he could make back on Earth. The cleaning drone at his side beeped softly, indicating a spill ahead. Ryan sighed and steered toward the viscous purple puddle outside the royal nursery. As he approached, a piercing shriek echoed through the hall, followed by what sounded like furniture being hurled against walls. The massive doors to the nursery burst open. A Flixian nanny, the 15th this month by Ryan's count, scrambled out, all 6 of her eyes wide with terror. "I resign." Effective immediately, she screeched at the royal attendant who hurried after her. "Those are not children. They are demons spawned from the darkest nebula." Ryan pressed himself against the wall as she stormed past, leaving a trail of agitated pheromones that made his nose itch. The royal attendant, First Minister Krex, stood frozen in the corridor, his normally immaculate scales drooping in defeat. "Another one gone," Ryan murmured to himself, focusing on cleaning the spill. Krex's head swiveled toward him, compound eyes narrowing. "Human, you observed this." Ryan straightened, suddenly aware he might have spoken too loudly. "Sorry, sir. Just doing my job." The First Minister's antennae twitched, a sign of intense calculation among Vexilonians. "You're the one who fixed the atmospheric regulator in the throne room last week, are you not? When our engineers could not." Ryan shifted uncomfortably. He'd simply bypassed a faulty circuit using a trick he'd learned during his time as a maintenance engineer on lunar habitats. Before the accident that cost him his certification and career. "Just a temporary fix, sir." Yet the Queen was impressed. Krex circled Ryan, assessing him with those unnerving compound eyes. "Humans are an adaptive species. Problem solvers." Inside the nursery, something shattered against the wall, followed by dual high-pitched giggling. "Sir, I should really finish. The Queen's offspring requires supervision. This is the 15th caretaker to resign. The diplomatic summit begins tomorrow, and Her Majesty requires someone to manage the royal heirs." Ryan's stomach dropped. "Sir, with all due respect, I'm just a janitor." "You are a human," Krex corrected. "Your species is known for unorthodox solutions and resilience. You will attend the royal twins until a proper replacement can be secured. But I have no experience with children, especially not." He gestured toward the nursery, where ominous thumping noises continued. "The alternative is immediate termination of your employment contract and deportation," Krex said flatly. "The Queen cannot appear at the Galactic Summit with this domestic situation unresolved. It would show weakness." Ryan closed his eyes briefly. He couldn't afford deportation. His sister back on Earth depended on his salary for her medical treatments. "How long?" he asked weakly. 3 cycles. Perhaps 4. Krex's mandibles clicked in what might have been sympathy. "You begin immediately." Before Ryan could protest further, Krex pressed his palm to the security scanner. The nursery doors slid open, and with a firm push, the First Minister ushered Ryan inside. The doors sealed behind him with a hiss that sounded uncomfortably final. Ryan stood in what appeared to be the aftermath of a localized hurricane. Furniture floated near the ceiling, defying gravity. Glowing liquid dripped down the walls in psychedelic patterns. In the center of the destruction sat 2 Vexilonian children, perhaps equivalent to human 4-year-olds, though it was difficult to tell with alien species. Unlike adult Vexilonians, whose exoskeletons hardened into rigid plates. The twins had soft, iridescent carapaces that shifted colors with their moods. Currently, they were flashing bright red, the universal warning color. Hello, Ryan said, forcing a smile. I'm Ryan. Both heads swiveled toward him with unsettling synchronicity. Their compound eyes, 12 total between them, focused on him with laser intensity. You're not a nanny, said the one on the left. You're a cleaner. We don't like cleaners, added the right twin. They take our things. Ryan noticed they spoke perfect English, their mandibles clicking in precise imitation of human speech patterns. It was both impressive and deeply unsettling. Actually, I'm your new caretaker, Ryan said, deciding honesty was probably the best approach. Just temporarily. The twins exchanged a look that required no translation. This human wouldn't last long either. I'm Zix, said the left twin, scales briefly shifting to a deep blue. I'm Zax, said the right twin, matching the color change. We're bored. Ryan surveyed the floating furniture. I can see that. How are you doing this, by the way? He pointed upward. Zix, or was it Zax, flicked a tiny appendage. Gravity manipulation. Baby trick. Our last nanny didn't like it, said the other twin, with what sounded suspiciously like pride. She was from a high-gravity world. I bet she didn't, Ryan murmured. Could you maybe put the furniture down? Just so no one gets hurt. The twins exchanged another look, then simultaneously shrugged. A very human gesture they must have learned from observation. The furniture crashed to the floor with alarming force, making Ryan jump. Better? They asked in unison, their scales now pulsing with mischievous green patterns. Ryan took a deep breath. Clearly, these kids were testing him, seeing how quickly they could make him break. He'd worked with difficult equipment under high-pressure situations before. How different could royal alien children be? Much better. Thank you, he said calmly. Now, what activities do you usually do with your nannies? Make them cry, Zix said immediately. Make them quit, Zax added. Our record is 12 minutes. They finished together. Ryan checked his watch. Well, I'm already at 2 minutes and still here, so your record's safe for now. He looked around the room, noticing educational modules similar to Earth tablets scattered among the debris. Do you like learning games? Boring, Zix declared. Too simple, Zax agreed. Ryan spotted what looked like a maintenance panel in the corner of the room. What's behind that panel? The twin scales flashed curious yellow. Environmental controls, Zix said. We're not allowed to touch them, Zax added, in a tone that suggested they frequently did exactly that. Ryan walked over and knelt beside the panel. When I was about your age, well, the human equivalent, I took apart our home's climate control system. My mom was furious. The twins inched closer, suddenly interested. Did you fix it? Zax asked. Eventually, Ryan said with a smile. After I figured out how it worked. Do you know how your environmental systems function? Both twins puffed up, their carapaces expanding slightly in what Ryan was beginning to recognize as pride. Of course we do, Zix said. We're royal heirs of the Vexillonian Empire. We understand all imperial technology, Zax added. Prove it, Ryan challenged gently, opening the panel to reveal a complex array of circuits and fluid-filled tubes. For the next hour, Ryan guided the twins through a basic explanation of the environmental control system. To his surprise, they were incredibly intelligent, grasping concepts that would challenge human engineering students. They were also, he realized, desperately bored and unchallenged by the educational programs designed for them. You're not terrible, Zix declared eventually, which Ryan took as high praise. For a human, Zax added. Thanks, Ryan said dryly. Now, I understand there's a diplomatic summit happening, and your mother needs you both to be on your best behavior. What does that usually involve? The twin scales darkened to a sullen gray. Standing still, Zix said. Being quiet, Zax continued. Looking cute for visiting dignitaries. They finished together, with obvious disgust. Ryan nodded sympathetically. Sounds boring. It is, they exclaimed in unison. Well, Ryan said thoughtfully, what if we made it into a game? Two sets of compound eyes blinked at him curiously. What kind of game? Zix asked cautiously. A spy game, Ryan suggested. During diplomatic meetings, the best intelligence officers are the ones no one notices. You could pretend to be royal spies, gathering information while appearing to be perfectly behaved royal children. The twins' scales rippled with interested patterns of blue and purple. What would we be looking for? Zax asked. Ryan shrugged. Body language. Inconsistencies in what people say versus what they do. Who talks to whom? It's what human intelligence analysts do. We could create a code system, Zix said excitedly, and compare notes after. Zax added. For the first time, their excitement seemed genuine rather than malicious. Ryan felt a small surge of victory. The moment was interrupted by a chime from the wall panel, followed by the voice of First Minister Krex. Human. The royal offspring must be prepared for their evening meal with Her Majesty. You will ensure they are properly attired and behaved. Ryan glanced at the twins, who had immediately shifted their scales to innocent-looking patterns. Of course, Minister. We're just finishing up our diplomatic training. There was a pause. Indeed, Krex said finally, sounding surprised rather than suspicious. The royal wardrobe drones will arrive shortly. After the communication ended, Ryan turned to the twins. All right, let's make a deal. If you help me figure out how to get you properly dressed and presented, I'll help you design a proper spy code system after dinner. Deal. The twins conferred through some form of silent communication, their antennae touching briefly. Deal, they said simultaneously, extending their small, clawed appendages. Ryan shook each tiny hand carefully, wondering what he'd gotten himself into. The royal wardrobe turned out to be an elaborate affair involving multiple layers of ceremonial chitin weave and embedded technology that Ryan couldn't begin to understand. Thankfully, the twins were surprisingly cooperative, guiding him through the process with minimal mischief. These ceremonial plates amplify our bioluminescence, Zix explained, as Ryan struggled with attaching what looked like glowing shoulder pads to the young royal's carapace. It shows our emotional state to all present, Zax added. A sign of royal transparency. That's actually pretty cool, Ryan admitted. Human leaders just wear boring suits. We know, the twins said together. We've studied your species. Something in their tone made Ryan pause. Why? Zix's antennae twitched. Humans are interesting. Unpredictable, Zax elaborated. Mother says unpredictability is either a great strength or a fatal weakness. They finished in unison. Before Ryan could process that concerning statement, the doors slid open, and First Minister Krex entered, his own ceremonial attire glittering with embedded technology. Acceptable, he declared after inspecting the twins. His compound eyes shifted to Ryan. You have managed better than expected, human. They're good kids, Ryan said, earning surprised blinks from both twins. Smart, too. Indeed, Krex said, sounding faintly bemused. You will accompany them to the dining hall and remain in the adjoining service chamber until the meal concludes. Ryan nodded, trying not to show his relief at not having to dine with alien royalty. The royal dining hall was as intimidating as Ryan had imagined, vast, crystalline, and designed for beings with very different physical requirements than humans. He helped settle the twins into their elevated feeding platforms, then retreated to the service area as instructed. Through a monitoring screen, he watched as Queen Zerlana entered. Even through the display, her presence was overwhelming. Unlike her children, the Queen's exoskeleton was fully hardened into magnificent plates that shimmered with patterns so complex they seemed to tell stories. Her compound eyes, easily 20 or more, moved independently, taking in everything at once. To Ryan's surprise, the twins were perfectly behaved, their scales glowing with respectful blue patterns as they greeted their mother with formal gestures. The Queen's resonant voice carried through the monitoring system. My heirs, I am informed you have a new caretaker. Yes, Mother, they answered in perfect unison. The human maintenance worker. And has this human maintained order? The Queen asked, with what might have been amusement. The twins glanced at each other before answering. He is different, Zix said carefully. He teaches, rather than commands, Zax added. The Queen's antennae quivered. Interesting. Humans continue to surprise us with their adaptability. The conversation shifted to diplomatic matters, with the Queen quizzing her offspring on various species attending the summit. Ryan listened, impressed by the twins' detailed knowledge and perceptive questions. When the meal concluded, Krex appeared in the service area. The Queen requests your presence at tomorrow's preparatory session for the summit. The royal heirs will need supervision during the proceedings. Ryan nodded, relieved that his first day hadn't ended in disaster. Of course, Minister. Returning the twins to their chambers proved surprisingly straightforward. They were tired from the day's events and the mental stimulation of both their improvised engineering lesson and dinner conversation. As Ryan helped them out of their ceremonial attire, Six looked up at him with those unsettling compound eyes. You promised to help us create a spy code. Tomorrow, Ryan assured them. We'll need it for the summit, right? Get some rest now, and we'll work on it first thing. The twins exchanged a look, then nodded simultaneously. Don't leave, Zach said suddenly, as Ryan turned to go. Previous nannies stayed in the adjoining chamber, Zix explained. Ryan hesitated. His assigned quarters were on the other side of the palace, in the human workers section. I'm not sure if I'm allowed. You're our caretaker now, the twins said with that eerie synchronicity. It's protocol. Whether it was actually protocol or a fabrication, Ryan wasn't sure, but he was too exhausted to argue. The adjoining chamber turned out to be luxurious by his standards. With a bed that adjusted to his physiology and environmental controls he could set to human comfortable temperatures. As he settled in for the night, Ryan couldn't help but wonder about the strange turn his life had taken. From disgraced engineer to alien janitor to royal nanny in the span of 6 months. His sister would never believe it, if he was even allowed to tell her. Through the wall, he heard soft clicking sounds that might have been the twins communicating with each other. Despite their mischievous reputation, he found himself actually liking the alien children. They were brilliant, curious, and clearly starved for appropriate intellectual stimulation and genuine interaction. Tomorrow would bring new challenges with the diplomatic summit, but for now, Ryan allowed himself to feel a small sense of accomplishment. Day 1 as an alien nanny, and he was still in one piece. Little did he know that the true test of his human adaptability was yet to come. Morning on Vexilin Prime arrived with the chaotic light of 3 suns rising in quick succession. Ryan awoke to find the twins already active, their carapaces shimmering with excited patterns as they pored over what appeared to be hand-drawn maps of the palace's diplomatic wing. Good morning, he said, stifling a yawn. Planning your spy mission already? We're identifying optimal observation points, Zix confirmed without looking up, and cataloging expected attendees by vulnerability to interrogation, Zax added, mandibles clicking rapidly over a data tablet. Ryan blinked, suddenly more awake. Remember, this is pretend intelligence gathering. No actual interrogations. The twins looked up simultaneously, their compound eyes unreadable. Of course, they said together, in a tone that was not entirely reassuring. Breakfast was delivered by service drones, a nutrition paste for the twins that smelled vaguely of cinnamon, and something approximating scrambled eggs for Ryan. As they ate, Ryan helped the twins develop their spy code, a simple system of carapace color patterns and antennae positions that would allow them to communicate observations without speaking. The Arcturon ambassador always lies about trade agreements, Zix informed him. But his secondary appendages twitch when he's being dishonest, Zax added. Ryan nodded, impressed by their observational skills. That's exactly the kind of intelligence that good spies look for. Body language often reveals more than words. The twins preened, their scales flashing proud gold patterns. A chime announced First Minister Krex's arrival. The minister entered, his own exoskeleton polished to a high shine for the diplomatic events ahead. The preliminary meetings begin in 1 hour, he announced. Her Majesty expects the royal heirs to observe from the diplomatic gallery. We're ready, the twins declared, their scales shifting to formal, subdued patterns. Krex's compound eyes fixed on Ryan. Human, you will accompany them and ensure they remain contained. Yes, sir, Ryan said, hoping his face didn't betray his nervousness. The diplomatic wing of the palace was even more impressive than the residential areas. Massive crystalline chambers connected by transparent tubes suspended over gardens of alien vegetation. Representatives from dozens of species moved through the spaces, some humanoid, others so alien that Ryan couldn't determine which parts were appendages and which were sensory organs. The diplomatic gallery turned out to be a small, elevated platform overlooking the main chamber where preliminary negotiations were taking place. The twins settled into their observation posts with surprising focus, their compound eyes taking in everything while their carapaces maintained perfectly neutral patterns. Ryan stood behind them, trying to remain inconspicuous while also attempting to follow the complex diplomatic proceedings. Most of the discussion involved trade routes and resource rights that meant little to him, but he noticed the twins were completely absorbed, occasionally exchanging subtle antennae signals that corresponded to their secret code. Hours passed, and Ryan was impressed by the twins' continued good behavior. Perhaps they really had just been bored and understimulated by previous caretakers. As the session adjourned for a midday recess, Krex approached the gallery. "The Queen requests your presence, human." "Alone?" Ryan felt his stomach drop. "The twins will remain here under guard observation," Krex said. "This way." With a nervous glance back at Zix and Zax, who were watching him with unreadable compound eyes, Ryan followed the minister through a series of increasingly ornate corridors until they reached a private audience chamber. Queen Zorlana sat upon a raised platform, her massive exoskeleton gleaming with patterns that seemed to shift and tell stories. Up close, she was even more intimidating. Easily 9 feet tall when seated, with a crown of sensory appendages that moved independently, sampling the air. "Your Majesty," Krex announced, "the human caretaker, as requested." Ryan bowed awkwardly, having no idea of proper protocol. "Approach, human." The Queen's voice resonated on multiple frequencies, some beyond human hearing that Ryan felt rather than heard. He stepped forward, trying not to tremble visibly. "My offspring report that you are teaching them," the Queen said. "This is unexpected." Ryan swallowed hard. "They're very intelligent, Your Majesty. I just tried to engage with that intelligence." The Queen's many eyes focused on him with unsettling intensity. Previous caretakers attempted discipline, restraint, and control. All failed. "With respect, Your Majesty, Zix and Zax don't need control. They need challenge. Direction for their energy and curiosity." A sound like wind through crystal chimes emanated from the Queen. Laughter, Ryan realized with shock. "Indeed, you perceive what others did not." Her antennae extended toward him, stopping just short of contact. "My children are not merely royal heirs. They represent the future of our species' evolution. Their generation marks a significant advancement in our cognitive and physical capabilities." Ryan nodded, beginning to understand. "They're bored because they're functioning at a higher level than expected for their age." "Precisely." The Queen's exoskeleton rippled with what might have been approval. "The Galactic Summit includes negotiations that will shape their future reign. I wish them to observe and learn, but previous attempts resulted in diplomatic incidents." Ryan winced, imagining what kind of chaos the twins could cause in a gathering of intergalactic diplomats. "I've given them a constructive focus. A game of observation and analysis, rather than disruption. So I am informed." The Queen's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. "This approach aligns with human educational methodologies? Learning through simulation? Sometimes yes. Especially for gifted children who need additional stimulation." Ryan hesitated, then added, "If I may suggest, Your Majesty, they might benefit from more practical applications of their studies. Engineering projects, diplomatic role-playing scenarios, that sort of thing." The Queen was silent for a long moment, her compound eyes shifting in patterns Ryan couldn't interpret. Finally, she said, "You will continue as their caretaker through the summit. Should your methods prove successful, a more permanent arrangement may be considered." Ryan blinked in surprise. "Your Majesty, I'm not qualified." Qualifications are determined by results, human. The Queen rose, towering over him. Results which, thus far, exceed all expectations. Before Ryan could respond, a palace-wide alert sounded, a pulsing tone that made his teeth vibrate. The Queen's exoskeleton flashed with patterns of alarm. "The security perimeter has been breached," she announced, responding to information Ryan couldn't perceive. Krex rushed into the chamber. "Your Majesty, unknown vessels have entered the atmosphere. Our defensive grid is not responding." Ryan's blood went cold. "The twins. Return to them immediately," the Queen commanded. "Palace security protocols will activate. The royal heirs must be secured in their shelter." "Yes, Your Majesty," Ryan said, already turning to leave. "Human," the Queen called after him, her voice resonating with unexpected emotion. "They trust you. This is rare and valuable." With that cryptic statement echoing in his mind, Ryan raced back toward the diplomatic gallery, his heart pounding. Palace guards rushed past him in the opposite direction, their weaponry humming with charged energy. When he reached the diplomatic wing, chaos had erupted. Delegates from various species hurried in all directions, some heading for exits, others towards secure communications centers. The diplomatic gallery was empty. The twins were gone. Ryan fought rising panic, searching the area frantically. A guard approached, weapon raised until recognizing Ryan's palace credentials. "The royal heirs," Ryan gasped. "Where are they?" "Evacuation protocols dictate they should be en route to the royal shelter," the guard replied. "Did you not escort them?" "I was summoned by the Queen," Ryan explained. "They were supposed to be under guard observation." The guard's carapace flashed with alarm patterns. "Communications are compromised. We cannot confirm their location." Ryan thought quickly. If he were the twins, brilliant and mischievous, where would he go during an emergency? Certainly not to a boring shelter as protocol dictated. The environmental control hub, he realized aloud. They were fascinated by it yesterday. If communications are compromised, they might try to help from there. The guard hesitated, clearly torn between protocols and Ryan's suggestion. "I'll find them," Ryan decided. "Which way to the central environmental controls?" "Sublevel 3, Eastern Quadrant," the guard said after a moment's hesitation. "But human, if hostile forces have infiltrated." "They're just children," Ryan said firmly. "I'll bring them to safety." As alarms continued to blare, Ryan navigated the increasingly chaotic palace corridors, heading for the nearest access point to the lower levels. Years of working maintenance had given him an instinctive understanding of building layouts. Service corridors and maintenance shafts always followed certain patterns. Sure enough, he found an access tunnel that maintenance drones were using to travel between levels. Following them downward, he emerged on sublevel 3 just as a massive tremor shook the palace foundations. The environmental control hub was easy to spot, a massive chamber filled with the same technology he'd shown the twins in their nursery, but on an exponentially larger scale. Tubes of glowing fluids pulsed along the walls and ceiling, regulating atmosphere, temperature, and a dozen other variables throughout the palace. And there, perched precariously on a maintenance platform, were Zix and Zax. Their small appendages moved with incredible speed across control interfaces, their carapaces flashing with patterns of intense concentration. "Zix! Zax!" Ryan called, relief flooding through him. Both heads snapped toward him, compound eyes blinking in surprise. "Ryan," they called in unison. "We're fixing the defensive grid." Ryan climbed up to their platform. "What do you mean? What's happening?" "Sabotage," Zix said grimly. "The environmental systems are connected to the defensive grid," Zax explained. "Someone introduced a cascading failure. They continued together. We're trying to bypass it." Ryan looked at the complex systems they were manipulating, far beyond his understanding. "Shouldn't the royal engineers be handling this?" "They can't," Zix said. "The sabotage is targeting specific Vexillonian neural pathways. It's making them see errors that aren't there," Zax added. Ryan frowned. "But you're Vexillonian too. How are you immune?" The twins exchanged a glance. "We're different," they said simultaneously. "The next evolutionary step," Ryan remembered the Queen's words. Your brains work differently. They nodded, returning to their work with intense focus. Another tremor shook the chamber, stronger this time. Ryan grabbed a support beam to steady himself. What can I do to help? He asked. The physical bypass, Zach said, pointing to a panel across the chamber. We need those fluid lines rerouted. Ryan hurried to the indicated panel, pulling off the cover to reveal a complex network of tubes carrying glowing fluids. Connect the blue primary to the security override, Zix called out. The one with the pulsing pattern. Ryan identified the tube, similar to ones he'd repaired in the maintenance areas, though the contents were different. With careful precision, he disconnected it from its original port and reconnected it to the override node. The chamber lights flickered, then stabilized. It's working, the twins called excitedly. The defensive grid is coming back online. Another tremor, violent enough to knock Ryan off his feet. From somewhere above, the sound of an explosion echoed through the palace structure. We need to get to the royal shelter, Ryan insisted, helping the twins down from their platform. Your mother will be worried sick. But we've almost fixed it, Zix protested. You've done enough, Ryan said firmly. The engineers can take it from here. Your safety is what matters now. The twins looked ready to argue, but another explosion, closer this time, made the decision for them. They allowed Ryan to lead them toward the emergency evacuation route indicated on the wall displays. As they hurried through the subterranean corridors, Ryan couldn't help but marvel at the twins' intelligence and courage. They hadn't panicked or hidden. They'd immediately tried to help, using their unique abilities. Who would sabotage the palace? Ryan asked as they ran. Many species fear Vexillonian expansion, Zix said. The summit was to negotiate peaceful cooperation, Zax added. Not everyone wants peace. They finished together, their scales darkening to troubled indigo. The royal shelter turned out to be a reinforced chamber deep beneath the palace, accessed through a series of biometric scanners that recognized the twins immediately. As the massive doors slid open, Ryan saw Queen Zerlana and First Minister Krex conferring urgently with military commanders. The Queen's compound eyes fixed on them instantly, her exoskeleton flashing with patterns of relief so intense they were almost blinding. My heirs, she said, extending her appendages toward them. You are safe. The twins rushed to their mother, their own carapaces glowing with responding patterns. It was the most emotional display Ryan had seen from any of them. Krex approached Ryan, his posture communicating both relief and suspicion. How did you locate them? They disabled their tracking implants. I just thought about where they'd go, Ryan explained. They were in the environmental control hub, working to bypass the sabotage in the defensive systems. The Queen's attention shifted to Ryan. Explain. Ryan described what the twins had done, watching as the Queen's patterns shifted from surprise to pride to concern. They risked themselves, she said, her resonant voice vibrating with emotion. They wanted to help, Ryan said simply. They're brave kids. The military commander approached, bowing to the Queen. Your Majesty, the defensive grid is restored. The attacking vessels have been neutralized or driven back. And the saboteurs? Krex demanded. 3 identified and captured. Genetic scans indicate Procyon origin. The Queen's exoskeleton darkened. The Procyon Collective. They seek to prevent our alliance with the Terran systems. Ryan blinked in surprise. Wait, Earth. We're forming an alliance with Vexillon. That is the primary purpose of the summit, Krex confirmed. The first formal alliance between our species. Certain factions oppose this development. The twins moved to Ryan's side, their small appendages touching his hand in what felt like a gesture of reassurance. We helped fix it, Zix said proudly. The human way, Zax added. Adaptive problem solving. The Queen studied her offspring, then Ryan. Indeed. Perhaps this is why an alliance between our species holds such promise, and such threat to those who prefer the old order. A palace official entered the shelter, bowing deeply. Your Majesty, the diplomatic delegates are secure. The summit can resume once security protocols are completed. Excellent, the Queen said. This incident only reinforces the importance of our negotiations. She turned to Ryan. You have proven your value twice over, human. First as caretaker to my heirs, and now in this crisis. Ryan ducked his head, embarrassed. I just did what anyone would do, Your Majesty. No, the Queen said firmly. You did what a human would do. Creative, adaptive, and protective. Her compound eyes shifted to her offspring. My heirs require guidance that nurtures these same qualities. Qualities they will need as future rulers in an evolving galaxy. Ryan suddenly understood what she was suggesting. Your Majesty, I'm just a maintenance worker with a suspended engineering license. I'm not qualified to tutor royal heirs. As I stated previously, results determine qualifications, the Queen said. My offspring respond to you. They learn from you. They trust you. The twins' carapaces flashed with patterns of agreement, their compound eyes fixed hopefully on Ryan. Ryan hesitated, thinking of his sister back on Earth, of his failed career, of the unlikely path that had brought him here. I would be honored, Your Majesty, but I have family obligations on Earth. My sister can be accommodated, the Queen said smoothly. A residence allowance, medical provisions. These are simple matters to arrange. Ryan looked at the twins, who were practically vibrating with excitement, their scales flashing rainbow patterns. We'll create a comprehensive education program, Zix said eagerly. Engineering, diplomacy, xenobiology, Zax added. And human thinking, they finished together. Ryan couldn't help but smile. All right then, but no more disabling tracking implants or rushing into danger zones, deal? Deal. The twins agreed, with the synchronized head tilt that Ryan was beginning to find endearing rather than unnerving. As palace security announced the all-clear and preparations began to return to the diplomatic chambers, Ryan found himself contemplating the strange turn his life had taken. From disgraced engineer to alien janitor to royal tutor, all because he'd treated two alien children with respect and engagement rather than fear or control. Perhaps that was the lesson the galaxy needed most right now, finding connection across differences, recognizing value in diverse approaches. As humans and Vexillonians moved toward alliance, maybe his small role would help bridge the gap between their worlds. The twins tugged at his hands, eager to return to the summit now that the danger had passed. As they made their way back to the diplomatic chambers, Ryan could feel the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He wasn't just a temporary caretaker anymore. He was officially the tutor to the future rulers of one of the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy. You're thinking too hard, Zix observed, compound eyes fixed on Ryan's face. Your forehead wrinkles when you worry, Zax added. Ryan smiled despite himself. Just processing everything that's happened. 24 hours ago, I was mopping floors. And now you're shaping the future of interstellar diplomacy, the twins said together, their carapaces rippling with amused patterns. No pressure or anything, Ryan muttered. First Minister Krex approached as they reached the diplomatic wing. The Queen requests the royal heirs observe the emergency session. Their actions in restoring the defensive grid have become known to the delegates. It presents a unique diplomatic opportunity. Ryan raised an eyebrow. What kind of opportunity? Their intervention demonstrates Vexillonian human cooperation in action, Krex explained. Most effective timing, though unplanned. The twins straightened, their scales shifting to formal diplomatic patterns. We're ready, they declared. Ryan placed a hand on each of their shoulders. Remember our spy game. Observe everything, but no actual interrogations, right? Of course, they agreed, with innocent blinks that Ryan didn't trust for a second. The emergency session was held in the Grand Assembly Chamber, a vast space with crystalline architecture that amplified sound and light in ways that seemed almost magical. Representatives from dozens of worlds occupied tiered seating arranged by alliance blocks. The Vexillonian delegation, led by Queen Zorlana, occupied the central platform. To Ryan's surprise, the twins were directed to sit beside their mother rather than in the observation gallery. Even more surprising, Krex indicated that Ryan should accompany them. Human, the Queen acknowledged as they approached. You will attend my heirs during these proceedings. Ryan bowed awkwardly. Yes, Your Majesty. As he took his position behind the twin seats, Ryan became acutely aware of the stares from various delegates. Humans were relatively new to galactic politics, and seeing one in such proximity to Vexillonian royalty was clearly unexpected. Queen Zorlana rose, her magnificent exoskeleton glowing with formal diplomatic patterns. The chamber fell silent. Esteemed delegates, her resonant voice filled the space without apparent amplification. Today's attack was a desperate attempt to prevent progress, specifically, the alliance between Vexillon and Earth. Those responsible have been identified as agents of the Procyon Collective. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Ryan noticed the Procyon delegates, tall, furred beings with elongated limbs, shifting uncomfortably. We do not hold the collective responsible for the actions of extremists, the Queen continued. However, this incident only reinforces the importance of the alliance we seek to forge. She gestured toward the twins. When our defensive systems were compromised, it was my heirs who identified the sabotage pattern. Working alongside their human caretaker, she nodded toward Ryan. They implemented a solution that our engineers, affected by the targeted neural disruption, could not perceive. All eyes turned to the twins, who sat perfectly poised, their carapaces glowing with dignified patterns. This collaboration exemplifies why an alliance between our species offers such potential, the Queen concluded. Different perspectives create resilience. Different approaches yield innovation. The Earth Ambassador, a distinguished woman Ryan recognized from news broadcasts, stood in response. Vexillon has been a valuable trading partner for years, but today's events demonstrate why formal alliance benefits us both. The attempted sabotage targeted Vexillonian neural pathways, a species-specific attack that humans were naturally immune to. Similarly, human systems might be vulnerable in ways that Vexillonians are not. Together, we create mutual security. Strategic, Ryan thought, framing the alliance as practical rather than ideological. The twins were watching the proceedings with intense focus, their antennae occasionally twitching in their secret code. Ryan realized they were analyzing the responses of various delegates, just as they'd planned in their spy game. The Procyon representative rose next, his fur bristling with what Ryan interpreted as indignation. The collective categorically condemns these actions and denies any official involvement. We request evidence before accusations damage long-standing relationships. Evidence has been provided to the Security Council. Krex responded smoothly. We do not suggest collective leadership ordered this attack, merely that the perpetrators originated from your territories. Ryan watched the careful diplomatic dance with fascination. Every word seemed to carry multiple meanings, every gesture conveying subtle signals to different factions. Zix's antennae twitched in the pattern they'd established for deception detected. Ryan followed the young royal's gaze to a delegate from a crystalline species he didn't recognize, who was passing something to an aide. Leaning forward slightly, Ryan whispered, "What do you see?" "Unauthorized communication device," Zix murmured back. "Frequency matches Procyon technology," Zax added so quietly that Ryan barely heard. Ryan straightened, uncertain what to do with this information. Should he alert Krex? Interrupt the proceedings? Before he could decide, the Queen's antennae flicked in a pattern that made both twins sit straighter. "She knows," they whispered in unison. Sure enough, as debate continued about security protocols, royal guards discreetly moved to position themselves behind the crystalline delegate. The twins exchanged a look of pure delight. Their spy game had aligned perfectly with actual security operations. The session continued for hours, with various factions stating positions, making demands, and offering concessions. Throughout it all, the twins remained engaged, their attention never wavering. Ryan found himself impressed not just by their intelligence, but by their endurance. Most human children their age would have been fidgeting unbearably by now. When the session finally adjourned for the day, the Queen turned to her offspring. "You have conducted yourselves admirably," she said, her carapace glowing with proud patterns. "We observed everything. Zix reported eagerly. And analyzed faction alignments, Zax added. The Queen's compound eyes shifted to Ryan. Your strategy proved effective. Ryan shrugged modestly. They just needed the right framing to make diplomatic observation interesting. Indeed. The Queen rose. My heirs will join me for diplomatic reception preparations. Human, your presence will be required at the evening function. Ryan blinked in surprise. Me? At a diplomatic reception? As official tutor to the royal heirs, your position now includes ceremonial duties, Krex explained, sounding faintly amused at Ryan's discomfort. But I don't have anything appropriate to wear, Ryan protested weakly. Arrangements have been made, Krex assured him. Report to your new quarters in the royal wing at Third Sun Descent. As the twins were led away with their mother, they looked back at Ryan with excited carapace patterns that clearly communicated, this is going to be interesting. Ryan's new quarters turned out to be a spacious suite connecting to the twins' chambers. Where his previous maintenance worker housing had been functional but Spartan, these rooms were luxurious, with adaptable environmental controls and furnishings that adjusted to human physiology. Most surprising was the formal attire laid out on the sleeping platform, a Vexillonian-styled outfit modified for human anatomy. The material shimmered with subtle color-shifting properties, though nothing as dramatic as Vexillonian carapace patterns. Ryan examined it with a mixture of awe and trepidation. His entire life had been turned upside down in less than 48 hours. As he dressed for the reception, Ryan's thoughts turned to his sister back on Earth. What would she think of all this? Her little brother, the failed engineer who'd taken a maintenance contract on an alien world out of desperation, now tutor to royal heirs. It seemed too fantastical to be real. A communications console in the wall chimed softly. Ryan approached, pressing his palm to the interface as he'd seen others do. To his shock, his sister's face appeared on the screen. Ryan? She blinked in confusion. What the? You look different. Where are you? Ryan gaped at the screen. Sarah? How is this possible? Interstellar communication is restricted to official channels. Sarah grinned. Well, apparently being the sister of the new royal tutor comes with perks. I just got a visit from some very official-looking people who set up this communication link. They also brought paperwork about medical treatments and housing arrangements. Her expression turned questioning. What exactly have you gotten yourself into? Ryan laughed, relief and joy washing over him. It's a long story. The short version is I accidentally became responsible for the Vexillonian royal heirs, and now I'm their official tutor. Only you, Ryan. Sarah shook her head in amazement. One day you're fixing air recyclers, the next you're shaping alien royalty. The Queen is arranging for your medical care, Ryan explained, still hardly believing it himself. Top-tier treatments that weren't available to us before. Sarah's eyes widened. The experimental regeneration therapy? Ryan, that's not even approved for general use yet. Apparently, diplomatic connections help bypass waiting lists, Ryan said. How are you feeling? Better, now that I know my little brother is moving up in the galaxy. Her smile softened. I'm proud of you, Ryan. You always land on your feet, even when it's on another planet. The conversation continued for several precious minutes. Ryan explaining the bizarre circumstances that had led to his new position, Sarah filling him in on developments back home. By the time they said goodbye, with promises of regular communication, Ryan felt a weight lift from his shoulders. His sister would be taken care of. Whatever challenges his new role brought, that knowledge made them manageable. A chime from the door announced the arrival of the twins, already dressed in their formal attire. Their carapaces gleamed with intricate patterns that seemed to tell stories Ryan couldn't read. You look almost presentable, Zix observed, circling Ryan with critical compound eyes. For a human, Zax added, the familiar refrain now carrying a hint of affection. Ryan smoothed down the shimmering fabric of his formal attire. Thanks, I think. You two look very regal. The twins preened, their carapaces flashing briefly with pleased patterns. The reception is a security assessment opportunity, Zix informed him. Many factions will attempt to gauge Vexillonian human alliance parameters, Zax continued. We'll be closely observed. They finished together. Ryan nodded seriously. Then we'll give them something worth observing. Remember, you're not just royal heirs tonight. You're representatives of the future relationship between our species. The twins straightened, their antennae aligning in perfect symmetry. We won't disappoint, they promised. The diplomatic reception was held in the palace's grand atrium, where crystalline structures amplified the bioluminescence of Vexillonian attendees, creating a living light display that took Ryan's breath away. Representatives from dozens of worlds mingled, some in environmental suits, others in forms so alien that Ryan struggled to identify sensory organs from decorative elements. The twins stayed close to Ryan as they entered, their carapaces pulsing with subtle patterns that communicated nervousness only he could recognize. Just like we practiced, he murmured encouragingly. Observe, analyze, remember. They nodded in synchrony, their nervousness shifting to focused determination. Queen Zorlana greeted various dignitaries across the chamber, her magnificent form impossible to miss. The Earth ambassador stood nearby, engaged in conversation with representatives of the Arcturon Confederation. That's Ambassador Chun, Ryan told the twins. She's one of Earth's most respected diplomats. Her neural patterns indicate genuine appreciation for Vexillonian art, Zix observed, surprising Ryan. Many diplomats feign interest. Her response shows authentic cultural engagement, Zax explained. Ryan blinked. You can read neural patterns? The twins exchanged a look. To some degree, they admitted together. Before Ryan could process the implications of this revelation, First Minister Krex approached with a reptilian diplomat in tow. The royal tutor and his charges, Krex introduced. This is Ambassador Selvig of the Draconid hierarchy. Ryan bowed respectfully. An honor, Ambassador. The Draconids' vertical pupils narrowed as they assessed Ryan. Fascinating choice. Humans are remarkably adaptable creatures. We find value in diverse perspectives, Ryan replied diplomatically. Indeed. The ambassador's forked tongue flicked briefly. And what perspective do you bring to the royal education? Maintenance worker? The slight was subtle but unmistakable. Ryan felt the twins tense beside him. Engineering problem solving, primarily, Ryan answered smoothly. Breaking complex challenges into manageable components. A skill useful in diplomacy as well, wouldn't you agree? The Draconid scales rippled in what might have been surprise at the composed response. Perhaps, though some problems require force rather than finesse. Force without finesse often creates more problems than it solves, Ryan countered. The twins' carapaces flashed with patterns of approval. The Draconid hierarchy has expressed concerns about the Vexillonian human alliance, Krex explained to Ryan. They fear rapid technological exchange may destabilize established power structures. Change is inevitable, Zix said suddenly, their compound eyes fixed on the ambassador. Adaptation preferable to obsolescence. Evolution favors collaborative species, Zax added. Isolation leads to vulnerability. The ambassador's expression shifted from dismissive to calculating as they reassessed the young royals. Your offspring have been well-trained in diplomatic rhetoric, First Minister. Not trained. Educated, Ryan corrected gently. There's a difference. An important distinction, agreed a new voice. Ambassador Chun had approached during their conversation. Training produces predictable responses. Education fosters independent thought. The twins' antennae quivered with excitement at meeting the human diplomat. Ambassador Chun, Krex acknowledged. I believe you've not yet met the royal heirs. The Earth ambassador bowed with perfect Vexillonian etiquette. I'm honored. Your quick thinking during today's crisis prevented a diplomatic disaster. The twins returned the gesture with formal precision. We applied human problem-solving methodologies, they explained simultaneously. Taught by your new tutor? Chen asked, glancing at Ryan with open curiosity. Ryan showed us how different perspectives create innovative solutions, Zix said. What Vexillonian engineers couldn't see, human perception identified immediately, Zax added. Ambassador Chen smiled. That's precisely why our alliance offers such potential. Together, we perceive what neither could alone. As the conversation continued, Ryan observed the subtle dynamics at play. The Draconid ambassador's initial dismissiveness had shifted to cautious reassessment. Ambassador Chen skillfully highlighted mutual benefits without appearing to challenge other factions directly. The twins, meanwhile, demonstrated diplomatic awareness far beyond their years. Throughout the evening, similar interactions played out as various delegates approached the unusual trio, human tutor and Vexillonian royal heirs. Some were openly curious, others thinly veiled their skepticism or concern. The twins handled each encounter with increasing confidence, applying their observational skills and intelligence to navigate complex diplomatic waters. During a brief respite, Ryan guided them to a quieter corner of the atrium. "You're doing brilliantly," he told them proudly. "Natural diplomats, both of you." Their carapaces rippled with pleased patterns. "We're applying your methodology," Zix said. "Identifying motivations behind statements," Zax continued, "and adapting responses accordingly." They finished together. Ryan smiled. "Exactly. That's the essence of effective communication across cultures. Is that why Mother selected you?" Zix asked suddenly. "Because humans excel at cross-species communication?" The question caught Ryan off guard. "I doubt she planned this. I was just in the right place at the right time." "Unlikely," Zax said, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. "Mother rarely acts without multiple strategic considerations." Before Ryan could respond, a commotion near the main entrance drew their attention. Palace guards moved swiftly into defensive positions as an unexpected delegation entered, tall, furred beings that Ryan recognized as Procyans. "The Procyan High Counselor," the twins whispered, their carapaces darkening with concern. "Not scheduled to attend." Ryan watched as Queen Zorlana moved to greet the new arrivals, her posture revealing nothing of surprise or alarm. "Stay here," Ryan instructed the twins, but they were already moving toward their mother, their sense of duty overriding his direction. With a sigh, Ryan followed, maintaining a respectful distance as the Queen addressed the Procyan delegation. "High Counselor Trevax," Queen Zorlana acknowledged. "Your presence is unexpected." The Procyan leader, distinguished by elaborate silver markings in his fur, bowed formally. "The circumstances demanded personal attention, Your Majesty. The actions of rogue elements from our territories required direct accountability." The Queen's antennae shifted subtly. "A gesture appreciated, Counselor." "The perpetrators acted against collective authority," Trevax continued. "They have been identified as members of the Isolation Front, extremists who oppose all cross-species alliances." Ryan noticed the twins exchanging their coded signals, their antennae twitching in patterns only they understood. "Deception indicators present," Zix whispered when Ryan edged closer. "But complex. Not simple dishonesty," Zax added. Ryan frowned, studying the Procyan delegation more carefully. The High Counselor's posture communicated sincerity, but there was tension in his subordinates that suggested internal conflict. As diplomatic pleasantries continued, Ryan noticed one of the Procyan aides watching the twins with particular intensity. Something about the gaze raised Ryan's instincts, not threat exactly, but focused interest that seemed out of place. "Your heirs are extraordinary," the High Counselor was saying to the Queen. "Their intervention during today's crisis demonstrates remarkable ability. They benefit from diverse educational influences," the Queen replied, with a subtle acknowledgement toward Ryan that drew the Counselor's attention. "The human tutor," Trevax observed. "An innovative choice." Ryan bowed respectfully but remained silent, aware that his status in this high-level diplomatic exchange was peripheral at best. "Complementary cognitive patterns enhance developmental potential," the Queen explained. "Human adaptive thinking balances Vexillonian structured analysis." The Counselor's fur rippled in what might have been thoughtful consideration. The Isolation Front fears precisely such collaboration. They believe species-specific evolution should proceed without cross-cultural influence. A perspective that ignores galactic history. Ambassador Chen interjected smoothly. "Every major civilization has benefited from cultural exchange. As the diplomatic discussion continued, Ryan maintained his focus on the Procyon aide who had been watching the twins. The being had edged closer during the conversation, their posture suggesting they wished to speak but were constrained by protocol. When the formal exchange concluded and the gathering broke into smaller conversational groups, Ryan guided the twins toward a refreshment area, deliberately passing near the Procyon aide. "You wish to communicate with the royal heirs," Ryan said quietly as they passed. "Why?" The aide startled, fur bristling briefly before smoothing. "Perceptive, for a human," they responded equally softly. "I have information relevant to their safety." Ryan hesitated, then nodded toward a secluded alcove. 2 minutes. I'll be monitoring every word." The twins followed Ryan's lead without question, their compound eyes fixed curiously on the Procyon. Once relatively private, the aide spoke rapidly. "I am Mira, genetic research specialist. The attack today was not merely political. The sabotage targeted specific neural pathways that the royal heirs do not share with adult Vexillonians." The twins' antennae stiffened in alarm. "Explain," Ryan demanded. "The royal heirs represent an evolutionary advancement," Mira continued urgently. "Their generation possesses neural adaptations that previous generations do not. The sabotage was designed to affect all Vexillonian neural patterns except theirs." Ryan frowned. "You're saying they were intentionally spared? Why?" "To demonstrate their difference. To the Queen, to the Council, to all observers." Myra's ears flattened anxiously. "Some factions believe the next generation of Vexillonians represents a threat due to their enhanced capabilities. Others see them as an opportunity for manipulation." "Which faction do you represent?" Ryan asked sharply. "I represent science, not politics," Mira answered. "The royal heir's neural evolution parallels specific patterns found in human cognitive structures. This convergent evolution is why your species work effectively together." She glanced nervously toward the main gathering. "The High Counselor does not know I am speaking to you. I risk much, but scientific truth must inform political decisions." The twins had been silent during this exchange, but their carapaces flickered with rapid patterns that Ryan couldn't interpret. "You should tell our mother," Zix said finally. "Scientific evidence, not rumor," Zax added. Mira nodded. "I have prepared data crystals with my research. But distribution must be careful. Those who orchestrated today's attack would suppress this information." Ryan considered the implications. If true, this added layers of complexity to the diplomatic situation and to his role as tutor to the twins. "We'll ensure the Queen receives your research," he promised. "But we'll need to verify your claims independently." "Of course." Mira extracted a small crystal from her fur, passing it discreetly to Ryan. "The comparative neural mappings are included. Your human scientists will recognize the significance immediately." A subtle signal from across the room caught Ryan's attention. First Minister Krex, indicating that their absence had been noticed. "We should return," Ryan told the twins. To Mira, he added, "Thank you for the risk you've taken. If your information proves accurate, you've done both our species a service." As they rejoined the main reception, Ryan noticed Queen Zorlana watching them with unreadable compound eyes. The twins moved to their mother's side. Their carapaces shifted to formal diplomatic patterns that revealed nothing of their recent conversation. The remainder of the reception passed in a blur of diplomatic niceties and political maneuvering. Ryan stayed close to the twins, his mind racing with the implications of Myra's information. If the royal heirs truly represented an evolutionary leap that shared characteristics with human neural patterns, it explained both their unique abilities and the Queen's interest in human educational approaches. It also explained why they might be targets. When the reception finally concluded, the royal family retired to their private chambers. To Ryan's surprise, he was summoned to join them, along with First Minister Krex and a Vexillonian he hadn't met before, introduced as Chief Geneticist Vorl. "You spoke with the Procyon researcher," the Queen stated once the chamber was secured. Not a question, but a statement. Ryan nodded, producing the data crystal. "She provided this." Research suggesting the twins' neural patterns share characteristics with human cognitive structures. Vorel took the crystal, inserting it into an analysis device. Complex holograms bloomed above the console, neural mappings that Ryan couldn't begin to interpret. Extraordinary, the geneticist murmured. The parallels are unmistakable. Is her research accurate? The Queen demanded. Preliminary analysis suggests yes, Vorel confirmed. The royal heir's generation exhibits neural adaptations that combine traditional Vexillonian structured cognition with patterns remarkably similar to human adaptive thinking. The Queen's compound eyes shifted to her offspring. You were specifically spared from today's sabotage, a demonstration of your difference. The twins' antennae drooped slightly. We did not realize, they admitted together. Nor did I, the Queen said, her carapace darkening. The implications are significant. Ryan cleared his throat. If I may, Your Majesty, this could explain why your children respond well to human teaching methods. Our cognitive approaches are complementary. Indeed, the Queen's antennae quivered thoughtfully, and it explains why certain factions oppose our alliance so vehemently. They fear what our combined potential represents. Krex, who had been silent until now, spoke up. The timing of this revelation, during the alliance negotiations, cannot be coincidental. Agreed, the Queen said. But it strengthens our position rather than weakens it. This evolutionary convergence suggests our species are natural allies. Ryan looked at the twins, who were watching the neural holograms with fascination. It also means they may face unique challenges as they develop. Neither fully traditional Vexillonian nor human in their thinking patterns. Which is precisely why your continued guidance is essential, the Queen said. You will help them navigate the integration of these cognitive approaches. The responsibility settled on Ryan's shoulders with new weight. These children weren't just royal heirs. They represented an evolutionary advancement that could reshape interspecies relations across the galaxy. I'll do my best, Your Majesty, he promised. But I'm not a xenobiologist or neural specialist. You are something more valuable, the Queen replied. You are someone they trust. Someone who recognized their potential without knowing its biological basis. The twins moved to Ryan's side, their small appendages touching his hand in what had become a familiar gesture of connection. We can learn together, Zix said earnestly. Complementary cognitive approaches, Zax added. Ryan smiled despite the enormity of the situation. One problem at a time, right? That's the human way. An effective methodology, the Queen agreed, her carapace lightening to more positive patterns. For now, we proceed with the alliance negotiations as planned. This information provides context, but does not change our fundamental objectives. As the meeting concluded, Ryan escorted the twins back to their chambers. They were unusually quiet, processing the revelations about their own neural structure. Does it bother you? Ryan asked gently, learning you're different from other Vexillonians? The twins considered the question with characteristic thoughtfulness. We always knew we were different, Zix said finally. But now we understand why, Zax continued. And that we're not alone. They finished together, looking at Ryan with compound eyes that somehow conveyed gratitude despite their alien structure. Ryan felt a surge of protectiveness toward these brilliant, vulnerable children caught at the intersection of evolution and politics. No, you're definitely not alone. And together, we'll figure out how to make the most of those differences. That night, as Ryan settled into his new quarters, he reflected on the improbable journey that had brought him here. From failed engineer to alien janitor to royal tutor, and now, guide to children who represented the biological future of interspecies cooperation. Sarah would laugh herself silly when he told her, if he was even allowed to tell her the full truth. Morning brought new challenges. The formal alliance negotiations were scheduled to begin, with the twins expected to observe from the diplomatic gallery. As Ryan helped them prepare, a message arrived from Ambassador Chen requesting a private meeting before the session. What do you think she wants? Zix asked as they made their way to the designated meeting room. Probably to discuss the implications of your neural patterns for the alliance, Ryan suggested. It's significant information for Earth's negotiating position. The ambassador was waiting alone, her expression serious but warm as they entered. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, bowing respectfully to the twins before turning to Ryan. "I've been briefed on the Procyon researchers' findings. The implications are remarkable." Ryan nodded. "It explains a lot about why the twins respond well to human educational approaches." "More than that," Chen said, "it suggests our species share a developmental trajectory despite evolving on different worlds. Convergent evolution on a neural level." She smiled at the twins. "You are living proof that our species are natural partners, not just political allies." The twins' carapaces glowed with pleased patterns. "The Isolation Front and similar factions fear exactly this," Chen continued. "Species working together, learning from each other, perhaps even evolving together. They see it as dilution rather than strength." "Evolutionary stagnation versus adaptation," Zix observed. "A fundamental philosophical division across galactic politics," Zax added. Chen nodded, clearly impressed by their insight. "Precisely. And now you two have become symbolic of that divide, whether you chose to be or not." Ryan frowned. "They're children, not political symbols." "In an ideal galaxy, yes," Chen agreed. "But royal heirs are never just children, and these two represent something unprecedented." She turned to address the twins directly. "I want you to know that Earth stands with you. Your unique capabilities represent hope for a future where different species build on each other's strengths rather than fearing our differences." The twins straightened, their carapaces shifting to formal diplomatic patterns. "We appreciate Earth's support," they said together, sounding far older than their years. Ryan felt a mixture of pride and concern. They were handling this with remarkable maturity, but they shouldn't have to bear such weight at their age. As they left the meeting, Ryan placed a hand on each of their shoulders. "Remember, regardless of politics or neural patterns or evolutionary significance, you're still kids. It's okay to play and explore and make mistakes." Their compound eyes blinked up at him. "Even royal heirs?" Zix asked. "Especially royal heirs," Ryan affirmed. "All that diplomatic responsibility needs to be balanced with fun." "What kind of fun do human children have?" Zax inquired curiously. Ryan grinned. "Tell you what, after today's negotiations, I'll show you some Earth games." "Deal. Deal." They agreed enthusiastically, their carapaces flashing with excited patterns. The formal negotiations took place in the Grand Assembly Chamber, with even more delegates present than during the emergency session. The Vexillonian-Earth Alliance was the primary agenda item, but related trade agreements, security protocols, and cultural exchange programs were also under discussion. From the diplomatic gallery, Ryan and the twins observed the proceedings. The revelations about the twins' neural patterns hadn't been made public, but rumors clearly circulated among the delegates. Many glanced up at the gallery with undisguised interest. "They're talking about us," Zix whispered, antennae twitching. 17 species representatives have exhibited curiosity indicators, Zax confirmed. Ryan nodded. "Remember what we discussed? You observe them, not the other way around. What are you noticing about the faction alignments?" The twins refocused, applying their extraordinary observational skills to the diplomatic dance below. "The Draconid hierarchy is attempting to insert security provisions that would limit technological exchange," Zix noted. "While the Arcturon Confederation seeks preferential trade status within the Alliance framework," Zax added. Ryan was continually impressed by their ability to track and analyze complex diplomatic maneuvers. "And what about the Procyon Collective?" "Internal division," they said simultaneously. "The High Counselor supports the Alliance publicly, but 3 sub-faction representatives show resistance indicators," Zix continued. "Including the military attaché," Zax finished. Ryan frowned, scanning the Procyon delegation until he identified the individual they meant, a stern-looking official whose fur was marked with what appeared to be rank insignia. "Good catch," he murmured. "Let's keep an eye on that one." As the negotiations progressed, Ryan noticed the twins growing increasingly engaged with the proceedings, their antennae flicking rapidly in their private code as they analyzed each diplomatic exchange. Mother is leveraging the sabotage attempt effectively, Zix observed with approval. Converting a security threat into a negotiating advantage, Zax agreed. Ryan smiled. You two are going to be formidable rulers someday. With proper human-influenced education, they replied together, their carapaces briefly flashing grateful patterns toward Ryan. The morning session adjourned for a midday recess, with negotiations set to resume after delegates had time for private consultations. As promised, Ryan took the twins to a secluded palace garden to introduce them to some Earth games. This one's called Tag, he explained, demonstrating the simple concept of chasing and tagging each other. The twins adapted to the game with enthusiasm, their natural agility making them challenging opponents. Their laughter, a harmonious clicking sound that Ryan had rarely heard from them, echoed through the garden as they darted between crystalline flora. Ryan was surprised by how much he enjoyed seeing them simply play like normal children, their royal dignity temporarily set aside. For a brief time, they weren't evolutionary marvels or diplomatic symbols, just kids having fun. The moment was interrupted by the arrival of First Minister Krex, his carapace patterns indicating urgency. Human, royal heirs, your presence is required immediately, he announced. There has been a development. The twins instantly shifted back to formal behavior, their carapaces darkening with concern. What's happened? Ryan asked as they followed Krex through the palace corridors. The Procyon military attaché has requested private audience with the Queen and Earth representatives, Krex explained. Regarding the neural research provided by scientist Mira, Ryan frowned. That information wasn't made public. Precisely the issue at hand, Krex said grimly. They were led not to the throne room, but to a secure conference chamber where Queen Zorlana awaited with Ambassador Chun and several advisors. The Procyon military attaché stood rigidly across from them, flanked by two subordinates. My heirs, human tutor, the Queen acknowledged their arrival. Attaché Dorvin claims knowledge of sensitive information regarding evolutionary developments. The Procyon's fur bristled slightly. Not claims, Your Majesty. The collective has monitored the neural developments in Vexillonian youth for 3 generations. Scientist Myra's research merely confirms what our xenobiologists have tracked for decades. Ryan exchanged surprised glances with the twins. This was unexpected. And your interest in this development? Ambassador Chin inquired carefully. The collective recognizes its significance, Dorvin stated. Convergent neural evolution between our species represents an opportunity, not a threat, Dorvin continued. The Isolation Front misunderstands this potential. High Counselor Trevax has authorized me to share the collective's full research database with both Vexillon and Earth. The room fell silent as the implications settled. You're proposing scientific collaboration, the Queen stated. Beyond that, Dorvin affirmed. A tri-species alliance. Procyon, Vexillon, and Earth, each contributing unique perspectives to guide this evolutionary development. Ryan looked at the twins, who were practically vibrating with excitement, their scales flashing rapid patterns of amazement and hope. The next generation of all 3 species shows signs of neural compatibility, Dorvin explained. Not identical, but complementary. Working together, they could achieve cognitive synthesis beyond anything our species have known individually. 5 years later, Ryan stood proudly on the observation deck of the Tri-Species Academy, watching students from Earth, Vexillon, and Procyon collaborating on complex problem-solving challenges. At the center of the most advanced group, Zix and Zax led discussions, their now adolescent forms still perfectly synchronized, but uniquely individual in their thinking approaches. The Academy had been their idea, a place where young minds from all 3 species could learn together, building on each other's cognitive strengths while compensating for limitations. From simple beginnings as a royal tutoring arrangement, it had grown into the galaxy's premier educational institution. Quite the legacy you've built, Queen Zorlana said, joining Ryan at the viewport. From janitor to academy founder is quite the career trajectory. Ryan smiled. The twins did the hard work. I just helped them see the possibilities. You recognized their potential when others saw only difficult children. The queen's carapace rippled with grateful patterns. All because you treated them as individuals with minds worth engaging. Below, the twins noticed their mother and tutor watching. They excused themselves from their group and bounded up to the observation deck, their adolescent enthusiasm still reminiscent of the mischievous children Ryan had first met. Ryan, Mother, they called in unison. We've solved the Arcturon paradox using trispecies cognitive modeling. 3 minds, working as one, Zix explained excitedly. Yet maintaining unique perspectives, Zax added. Ryan placed a hand on each of their shoulders, a gesture that had become their special connection over the years. I always knew you'd do the impossible. We had an excellent teacher. They replied together, their carapaces glowing with patterns of deep affection. The impossible, it turned out, wasn't taming troublesome royal twins. It was showing the galaxy that differences weren't barriers but bridges, and that sometimes the most unlikely connections yielded the greatest possibilities. And that was the end of the story. If you listened all the way to here, don't forget to leave feedback about what you thought of the story in the comments, whether positive or negative. Your feedback helps us improve. Also leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. And I'll leave here on the screen another video that I'm sure you'll like. Big hug, and see you in the next story.